Good evening. Welcome to this forum for the Portage County Executive Candidates sponsored by the League of Women Voters of the Stevens Point area and the Stevens Point Area Senior High Student Senate. Yay, students. After a 2-year hiatus, we are so happy to have in-person forums once again. My name is Sue Buck, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of the Stevens Point area. I will serve as the moderator for this event. The League of Women Voters is a political but nonpartisan organization. The League's primary purpose is to encourage voting by registering voters, providing voter information, and advocating for voting rights. Tonight's event is part of providing voter information through candidates sharing their views of issues of concern to Portage County residents. The county executive is responsible for the leadership and coordination of the work of the Portage County government, providing services to more than 71,000 residents and 27 municipalities of the county. These services include highway, parks and trail systems, and protecting the public through the public safety departments. The county also provides services to children, elderly, and disabled citizens through the Health and Human Services Department, the Aging and Disability Resource Center, and the Division of Public Health. It is the mission of Portage County government to enhance the quality of life for all its residents by providing fiscally responsible services that enable the citizens to build productive communities, families, and lives. The 2022 budget for Portage County is $119,005,942. The position of county executive is held for a 4-year term beginning April 19th of 2022. The county executive salary for 2022 will be $111,664.30. We appreciate that the two candidates for this office are present, Eric Olson and John Pavelski. In order to provide the most time to hear from the candidates and to provide a fair and equal opportunity to answer questions important to you in this community, I will review the format, time, and terms for this forum. This has also been reviewed with the candidates. Each candidate will first have 1.5 minutes to introduce themselves and to make an opening statement. They will have 1.5 minutes to respond to questions. They will also have 1 minute to make a closing statement. And I will repeat the question when requested. If you need me to do that, I'd be glad to do that. Candidates will first respond to some questions submitted by the League and students from the SPASH Student Senate, and then questions from the audience. Questions from the audience must be addressed to all the candidates. If you want to submit a question, please motion to one of the ushers for index cards and pencils. They're around the room. Just motion to them, and they will come and give you one of the cards and the pencils. The League reserves the right to review and screen questions for relevance and to avoid duplication. The timers are located in front of the candidate tables. A green folder will be held up when their time starts. A yellow folder indicates 30 seconds remain, and the red folder means the time has expired. Candidates may finish their sentence, then please stop, so the next candidate may begin the response. Candidates are asked to keep their remarks germane to the questions and fair to the participants. Audience members are requested to respect the candidates' time and responses, and they are also requested to turn off their sound-making devices. The moderator reserves the right to interrupt to ensure that these ground rules are observed. The order of response to each question will be rotated. We will alternate which candidate answers the question first. The order of the opening and closing statements will be chosen by random drawing by drawing the candidates' names out of this little container. As I've already stated, participating in tonight's forum are John Pavelski and Eric Olson. And we will now begin with a 1.5 minute opening statement from each candidate. And the first person who gets to do that is John Pavelski.
Good evening. And thanks for the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and also thank you for participating in local government. I've been a lifelong resident of Portage County my whole life. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
Can I start my time over, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is John Pavelski. I've been a lifelong resident of Portage County my entire life. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and also thank you for participating in local government. I've been involved in agriculture my whole life. I've managed a 2,500 acre farm, and then I combined to a 6,500 acre farm with a management team. And then I actually was the general contractor of the largest potato load-out facility in the Midwest. After I left that, I worked with Orthomolecular and built their vitamin nutrient supplement manufacturing and distribution company, which goes nationwide and also beyond. That's just some of the experience that I've had, and I'm basically running for office because I'm really concerned about the governmental overreach that's taking place by the state and federal government. We're seeing some mandates coming down from the state and local government that I feel are unconstitutional and violate some of our freedoms. After being run to ask for a county executive, I started reaching into the job descriptions and the details of the county executive. There's basically 3 details for the county executive: is basically overseeing the budget, supervising the departments that are authorized by the county board, and the veto power of the resolution. There is no job description of the county executive. I'm going to be meeting with the Portage County Planning and Zoning Director tomorrow. He's got a 7-page job description. The county executive doesn't have 1 period.
Thank you. Opening statement from Eric Olson.
Thank you, and hopefully this microphone is working. All right. I do want to also thank the League and thank the Student Senate for putting this together. I'm also noticing there's a lot of other existing elected officials in the room. I want to thank you all for your service. I also want to thank the other candidates who are here today for the later forums. These forums are super important for us to have an informed democracy. I also want to thank the people who are watching online and joining us from at home. My name is Eric Olson. I'm running for this job because basically I love this community. I love Portage County, and I want to see it thrive, and I want to see it succeed. I'm bringing to this position a lifelong career now of serving the public good, working on behalf of people to protect and advance the public good. I have a degree in urban forestry, but I also have a master's degree in urban and regional planning. And I moved to Stevens Point in 2004 to work in the College of Natural Resources at UW Stevens Point and teach courses in land use planning and community development. And the approach that we use in community development these days really focuses on collaboration and public participation. I believe that the way we form community is through the type of things we're doing today, through communication, by talking to each other, but also by listening to each other. So I want to bring a spirit of collaboration and communication and open government to Portage County. And I think it's important that we have a countywide elected leader who demonstrates what that looks like and lives it day to day. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. And we will start the questions. And for the first question, we will start with John Pavelski.
Okay.
And here's the first question. The county faces increasing fiscal challenges from inflation and the pandemic, in addition to continued state-imposed restrictions on raising revenues and specific unfunded state mandates. At the same time, a recent survey of Portage County residents showed over 90% support of every area of service the county provides. Given that, how will you work with the county board to keep Portage County in a good fiscal position, including providing competitive wage and benefit packages?
Right now, actually, Portage County is one of the best fiscal positions of any other counties within the state. You've got an awesome financial director, and you've got actually awesome people within the county who are keeping our financial responsibilities in check. One of the things you can do by fighting this inflation, which basically it's poor fiscal policy by the federal government that is being pushed down upon us at the local level, is by looking at economic development, trying to lure businesses in over here to provide tax revenue, to keep our more money coming in to keep your taxes lower. And also by working with private organizations who want to actually work and do some of the services at a very much lower rate to keep, again, the expenses down for the county. Other than that, as far as my job, as far as working with the 14 supervisors that I do oversee, is that's one of the things why I want to get involved in government, is because working in the private industry, I keep the organizations work with it as efficient as possible. There are some redundancies in government. There are some inefficiencies in government. I believe from working in the private sector and working in a lot of organizations and larger organizations, I can create some of those efficiencies and make the government run more efficient and more economically.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Olson.
Yeah, and I would agree with John that we are in a very good fiscal position, and I'd give credit to the county board and to the staff who have been operating in our budgets. But I also want to point out that the reason we're in sort of these fiscal strains has to do with restrictions placed on us from above, and we need to be able to work with our elected officials in Madison to try to communicate just how stressful this is. We're going to face another thing that's on the ballot on April 5th that's not being debated here is the referendum to exceed the levy limit so that we can support the Portage County Health Care Center. I'm in favor of passing that referendum, and I think it's just, I don't want to say sad, but it's harsh that we are put to this test of whether or not we want to support elderly people and our least advantaged people by agreeing to pass this referendum. But this is the mentality of some leaders in Madison who wanted to kind of constrain our local government. I also think that there's ways that we can find people out in the community who actually want to support initiatives that are for the public good. We receive donations from community members on a semi-regular basis. I was proud to work on the Parks Commission when Patty Dreyer was the county executive. We received a tremendous donation in the form of the Steinhagen property and the park there. And I think we need to keep our eyes open for those types of opportunities and make sure that we have good communication with citizens around the community that may actually want to contribute financially to offset some of our expenses. And I think a county executive is in a great position to do just that.
Thank you. The next question comes from the students, and it goes to Mr. Olson first. Many Portage County residents are concerned with climate change and have made personal changes to reflect their concerns, including the purchase of electric vehicles. How will you expand electric vehicle charging stations and promote other initiatives to reduce the use of fossil fuels in the county?
Sure, and that's a great question. My background, again, is in natural resource management, and I've been studying the climate issue for well over 15 years. And I agree the time to act is now. The county has tremendous capability to assist in getting more charging stations, and especially more renewable energy charging stations. So when we look at properties like our parks and our county facilities, I see no reason why we can't be putting charging stations in place right now. Using even under our limited budget constraints, we have funds that we could use to put in charging stations. We also need to try to find ways to make sure that there's no regulations in place preventing charging stations from being placed on private property, on businesses, and we need to work with our state and federal partners to just make sure that there aren't regulatory roadblocks. But I'm actually, right now, if we were to put up more solar photovoltaic panels, our county could actually save money. Solar energy right now, PV energy, is some of the least expensive sources of energy. But our county has sort of been stuck. I'm not sure exactly why it's stuck, but there's maybe people that just don't want to see us move forward. And I believe a county executive can present the leadership that says we should be a regional leader in installing solar PV and having renewable energy as part of our county government mix.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pavelski.
Basically, I'd take a look at electrical modernization and more utilization the same way we kind of have taken a look at solar panels. 10, 12 years ago, 20 years ago, solar panels were so expensive that they had to be subsidized, had to be implemented. Right now, actually, solar energy is actually cheaper than fossil fuels. You're going to start seeing, actually, you're going to see probably 4,000 acres within Portage County dotted with solar panels. It's basically technology that's going to drive, battery battery efficiency down. I look what's going on with the hand tools in construction. Before you were seeing cords, you were seeing air hoses all over the place and during construction sites. Now it's all lithium-ion batteries. But the consideration I do have is that even though the battery development is coming down and being utilized, there is potential health hazards with lithium batteries. I know two of my friends who their house is burnt down because of lithium-ion batteries. Right now, you talk to any car dealer, you know, there are trucks and cars coming out with these large batteries, but where are we going to dispose of these things? This could be a huge, huge, huge disposal problem. So that's one of the things we got to take care of before we start implementing all this battery technology, realizing what the end result is going to be. Again, it's going to be developed. It's not quite there yet. I like to see the private industry develop this stuff rather than subsidizing it. I don't want to have a Solyndra take place where all of a sudden the average citizen pays $10 billion and we got an empty building and nothing provided for us.
All right, thank you. Our next question, thank you. We'll start with Mr. Pavelski. Okay. We have a groundwater citizen advisory committee that has made recommendations in the past to improve and safeguard our groundwater. How will you work with this committee and the county board to solve this ongoing issue?
Actually, I think I'm actually posed to do a lot in this area. I've worked in commercial agriculture. I'm currently an organic farmer. I understand these issues pretty intricately. I've talked to some of the people that are supposedly on the other side of the agricultural issue, and they've got genuine concerns. There's lots of things that are actually going on right now as far as, you know, the technology that's being developed back 5 years ago, where whole fields were being spread with chemicals and fertilizer. Right now, we've got infrared spectrometry going on, taking pictures of fields and finding out where nutrients are being needed and fertilizer needs to be applied, and it's being done on the go. We've got drones going out and rather spraying a whole field and using, say, 12 gallons to the whole field. We're only spraying like 1 gallon, with the drones going out and spot spraying on the areas that need to be done. So technology is being developed very, very quickly, and the amount of chemicals and fertilizers are being reduced to a certain extent. There are some areas in the state where nitrate leaching is very, very susceptible. We have to probably use RO filters because you got basically an economic situation where are you going to pay $20 a month to filter your water, or are you going to pay $100 a month for increased food costs?
Mr. Olson.
All right. I've been fortunate to hear from people who are on the Groundwater Citizens Advisory Committee, and they've pointed out that their role is merely advisory and that they're actually frustrated that things that go before the Land and Water Conservation Committee of the county board basically stall out, and then they get buried there. There was recently a meeting where advocates in favor of protecting groundwater brought a proposal to the Exec Ops Committee of the county board, trying to change it from being a 6-member Land and Water Conservation Committee to a 7-member committee, so that there'd actually be like a yes or no vote, because there's too often a 3-3 vote. This county stalls out on groundwater time and again, and I don't think it's a big surprise. I think we should look at the Groundwater Citizen Advisory Committee and ask ourselves, is this really a representative committee? It's currently set up so that every municipality gets 1 appointment. Okay, some of these municipalities have a few hundred residents. Some of these municipalities have a few thousand. We should maybe have something that's a little bit more representative of the people of the county. Everyone in this room, everyone watching at home, drinks groundwater. We all are dependent on it. We're not going to get new, fresh sources of groundwater if our groundwater is lost. So we all have to come together on this and really find out if we can have a county board and a county leadership that really adequately protects our groundwater. I don't think the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Land and Water Conservation Committee, as they're both constituted right now, are up to the task. So I'm in favor of us trying to reform this and really move forward on protecting groundwater.
Thank you. We had a question from the audience which was very similar to this, and so I'm going to do this as question 3, part B.
Okay.
And I'll have Mr. Olson do this first. My parents live in the town of Stockton, and the nitrate level in the water has gone from 12 parts per million in 1997 to 33. When most recently tested, what would you do to make sure Portage County residents have safe water to drink?
Sure, and I think my answer to this is kind of long, but in short, 50 years ago, we allowed companies and municipalities to use the Wisconsin River as a free sewer, to just dump their waste into it. And then we passed the Clean Water Act and we created the EPA and we enacted regulations that said, no, you can't use the river just as a free sewer. Currently, we have a lot of folks out in the countryside that are using our groundwater as a free sewer. It's a place where excess nutrients are allowed to leach into the groundwater and then pop up later in someone else's well water. I don't blame them. They're making rational economic decisions given the laws and regulations that we have today. It's in their best interest to maximize production on those fields, to apply a good amount of nitrogen, because it's not on their balance sheet the fact that the excess nutrients pollute the groundwater system. We need to have a system that actually brings that up on the balance sheet. We need a way to provide financial incentives to farmers to do the right thing so that they are nudged to actually limit how much nitrogen they put on so that it does not pollute the groundwater and cause people the harm that high nitrogen can do. So all I'm in favor here is trying to nudge the system, bring those externalities, is what an economist would call it, bring those externalities back onto the balance sheet and have farmers take reasonable actions to protect our groundwater.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pavelski.
First of all, I would take a look at, try to find out where that contamination is coming from. How deep is your well? How close is your septic system to that well? If you have a shallow well, you might want to have to drill a deeper well. If your septic system is really close to that well, your septic system potentially could be contaminating that well and where you're getting your nitrates from. So you have to analyze where those nitrates are coming from. If you have a farmer that's growing continuous corn on corn on corn, or you have potentially large amounts of manure being spread, those nitrates could be coming from agriculture. If they are coming from agriculture, I would be talking to that farmer and seeing if he's, looking at potentially doing some different kind of agronomic practices. There's crop rotations, there's companion crops, there's cover crops, there's all types of agricultural applications, and that can be done in the area. It depends on soil type and what the farmer is actually doing in that area. After that, if it actually is coming from agriculture, I would be working with Extension, going to your Extension agent, and I think Eric is absolutely right. I talked to some people in the Nelsonville area. I propose a $5,000 test. We got to go to $20,000. But if this farmer is going to sacrifice $20,000, how are we going to compensate him for that kind of loss? And I think we can work that out and make some steps forward to better clean groundwater.
Okay, thank you. The next question. You've both commented in other venues about the nonpartisan nature of the county executive position. Yet local parties and partisan groups have been involved and endorsed candidates whether or not the candidates asked for it. What does nonpartisan mean to you, and will you commit to being nonpartisan in your position if elected? And we start with Mr. Pavelski.
This is actually a big issue because, again, nonpartisan means that I'm not biased towards any political party. Are we biased? Everybody's biased based on their upbringing, their culture, what they've been involved in. But I've got to serve all people. When I'm in business, when I'm building a building, when I'm buying something, I don't care whether you're male, female, what culture you came from, what ethnicity you are, whether you're black, Asian, Indian, you provide me the service. I basically make my judgment based on character. And the same thing with employees. If I need an employee, I could care less about what your background, but I'm looking at, your experience, your education, your ability to get the job done. And it's the same thing, I've met with these people that I'm supposedly not supposed to get along with, and they got legitimate concerns. I've grown up on a farm in rural Amherst Junction. I've only spent maybe $10,000 in my entire life on health care. I know some people who have spent $5 million on healthcare and have been involved in the healthcare system their whole life. I've got no idea what their life has been like. I need to talk with them, I need to understand them, and so I can actually provide services for their conditions. And so I realize that I don't know everybody else's situation, so I have to understand your situation no matter, I don't care again what party you're from.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Olson.
I'd agree with John that when you're elected, you represent all the people of Portage County, and that is my goal. I'm setting out to represent everybody. But I also want to point out that to win an election, you need a team. You have to work with people. You have to find supporters, and you have to work at sort of like a team activity. And so I realized, as you know, I grew up without a lot of income. I grew up with a single mother, and I didn't inherit any wealth. And I've worked to earn everything that I have. And I need to bring a team to bear on this if I'm going to run for office. I am glad to be endorsed by Wisconsin conservation voters, by Citizen Action Wisconsin, by Clean Wisconsin, by the Central Labor Council, by the Working Families Party, by the Stevens Point firefighters. These are all a part of my team, but it's all about making sure that you can get your message out and that you can talk to voters, as John was pointing out, having those conversations. I'm fortunate to be able to run for office, and I'm fortunate to have those opportunities to talk to people. Before the primary, I called over 500 people in this community to let them know that I'm running for office and why I'm running for office. So yes, it's a nonpartisan position. You run in these spring elections. There's no party label next to my name on the ballot, nor is there a label next to John's name on the ballot. We're running to represent everybody in the county, but it's a team effort, and I'm proud of the team that I'm working with.
Thank you. The next question, the long-discussed need for a new jail, courthouse, and law enforcement center is still relevant. What do you think is the best path forward, and how will you work with the board to reach the 75% support needed for a decision? Are there other infrastructure needs you see in the county? And we will start with Mr. Olson.
Sure, and I know this is going to be a challenge because right now we have this April 5th referendum to exceed the levy limit for a different capital project under the county's purview. I think that's going to tell us something about the community's ability to tolerate a whole lot of expensive construction projects, so I'm excited to see those results. I do realize that we have these space needs and that they have been ongoing. I think the tension, part of the underlying tension has been the question of whether or not we should just bust out of downtown and do this project somewhere else, or whether we need to maintain a commitment to the historic urban core. And I'm running because I believe that we have to maintain that commitment to the urban core. So I want to see a proposal come forward that does involve using the available acreage that we've already purchased downtown and trying to configure our spaces so that we can fit it downtown. And once we settle on that, I think we then rally support around what's the lowest cost alternative and what are the priorities of the community. If we put this off too much longer, I'm afraid that we're running the risk of having insurance settlements and other things related to how the jail is operating and the danger that people are maybe being put into in the jail. So I know we can't put that off forever, but at the same time, when we consider these projects now, we have to not learn lessons from the last 2 years about how we can work remotely and how we don't necessarily have to incarcerate every person. So the pandemic, for better or worse, has given us a lot to think about in terms of our space needs.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pavelski.
I've talked to the financial director, and we can actually afford a Justice Center. We've been tossing this Justice Center around, according to Stan Pataki, for over 30 years. Actually, the last 10 years, pretty much extensively. We spend over $16,000 a day in the county employee labor budget. That's a low estimate. By telling the county departments to start working on something and then all of a sudden saying, well, no, let's change and not work on this, and they just kind of throw it on the side and start working on something else, we have been very, very inefficient as a county, and we've been actually spending, I know if I put a number to it, over $3 million just in labor, of wasted labor, of deciding what to do. And I actually hear that from some people in the county. It's like we either need to make the decision or not. In business, that's why if I want to buy a tractor, I make the decision that day and I want the tractor there tomorrow. Now I realize government does not go that quickly, but still, as a county executive, I'm going to try to make that happen. One of the things you're going to need to realize when putting up a Justice Center, that we're spending over $800,000, $900,000 shipping our inmates out. We can take that and save that, but we don't want to make our jail too big, because actually we ship out some of our worst offenders. We don't want to make a bigger size jail and ship and get the worst offenders back over here. And also, I'm working with Mr. Lucas to, I don't want to just have more bigger jails. I want to decrease crime through private public's partnerships of decreasing crime.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from the audience. And we will start with Mr. Pavelski on this one. There has been talk in the past about having a clean and free needle exchanges as a harm reduction strategy to combat addiction and other issues that come along with drug addiction. What is your position on this? What other ways will you support the harm reduction method to drug issues rather than the costly and at times counterproductive law enforcement model?
I think actually a clean needle exchange is absolutely ludicrous. That's actually taking the problem and sweeping it underneath the rug and not getting to the root of the problem. I mean, if I had a child that had a problem like that, to give them clean needles, it's like that's not proper in my books. We have to get to the root of the problem. That's where I'd actually work with, again, private-public partnerships to keep the costs down, to find out what's happening in our community that these people are using these needles. There's some kind of emotional distress, there's some kind of activity going on that needs to be alleviated, needs to be understood, and these people need to be helped. Otherwise, it's just going to continuously get worse and worse and worse. And rather than, again, just allowing people to do the bad activity, we need to figure out where the bad activity is coming from and solve that problem. That's my suggestion.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Olson.
Yeah, I guess we would disagree on this. I believe that clean needle programs and harm reduction strategies have been successfully deployed in a number of communities, not just in Wisconsin, but outside of Wisconsin. And in fact, there's other countries that are much further along than the United States when it comes to dealing with harm reduction and drug addiction. I think if you establish a safe and protected environment for people who are addicted to narcotics, then you start setting up the conditions where you can talk to these people because they are humans. They're people with family stories, and they need to be understood. And we need to talk to them about how the community wants to help them help themselves. So you don't help them by telling them that they're not welcome in the downtown or telling them that they can't come around. You help them by being a little bit more welcoming and then finally getting to know about them so that you can introduce them to potentially programming and counseling and addiction treatment services that they need. I think if they right now have a distrust, if people don't feel that they're going to be treated with respect by law enforcement or by the county staff, we need to come and talk about what the issues are. Why do they not feel that they could be safe in coming to us? Because we don't want people getting both addicted as well as sick. I think we need to find ways to help people out.
All right, thank you. Based on our time, we have one last question. First will go to Mr. Olson. The Portage County Library System's main branch is housed in a city-owned building. The lease for that space will be renegotiated during your term. What are your views on this and your views on the library system, given that it is a highly funded and discretionary program?
Sure. I would say that the library, again, represents sort of the best of us, and it's a big part of the common good or the public good that I'd like to advance and defend. Libraries are not only sources of education, but they're places where community building happens. And so I'm certainly in favor of keeping and sustaining our libraries. I also want to respect our community forefathers, for lack of a better term, the people who decades ago tried to establish these relationships between the city and the county to make sure that they were not only mutually dependent on each other, but that they frequently talked to each other, that there was that open line of communication, particularly around these community facilities. So you see it tied in right now into the city-county building, into the Ruth Gilfrey Center, and into the library. The idea that these two things go hand in hand, the county and the city. And I look forward to the opportunities to work with the mayor and the city council to talk about our agreements and to make sure that we're on the same page about supporting both the facilities themselves, the capital needs that those buildings have, but also the programming and making sure that these are lively and well-used facilities in the community. So I'm humbly sitting before the people who made those decisions before me, and I really want to respect those decisions and keep those relationships tight between the city and the county.
Thank you. Mr. Pavelski.
I've talked to Larry Olthout, who's the director of the library, and yeah, the city owns the building, and there's kind of this special arrangement between the county doing renovations to the building and all that. And because of the technological advances, you're seeing a lot of college kids and actually older people not using the library as much because you can get a lot of information online. But me, as having 7 children, we use the library extensively, when our kids were young. I mean, we were checking out 20, 30 books a week. And some of the programs over there, and actually I think are very, very valuable and very, very beneficial for the families and the community as a whole. And I'd actually like to almost kind of see that expanded because actually, my daughter and son-in-law have started a private school. This device for children 2 years and younger should not be within any reach at all. And this is actually being utilized, I think, too much in our culture. And to get their hands on a physical book in front of a physical face is very, very beneficial for the community and the culture as a whole. And again, negotiating those kind of contracts or those kind of agreements, I talked to the mayor, and that's one of the things he wants to actually give some buildings to the county because he wants to unload his problems, but I'm not going to allow him to unload his problems onto the county, and we'll discuss some of those things. I've done deals like that before, and I'm familiar with that kind of negotiations in business, and we can take care of that.
Thank you. All right. I think we have finished. So we will move into our closing statements. The closing statement is an opportunity for the candidates to comment on topics not covered in the questions. The order of the closing statements will be chosen by random drawing once again, and each candidate will have 1 minute to present a closing statement. And we will begin with Mr. Olson.
All right. Well, again, I just want to thank everybody for taking their time to join us this evening. I'm sitting before you as someone who really wants to do this work. It may sound a little crazy. I have a job. I can continue working in that job, but I really want to take on this role of county executive. I believe I have a skill set that's unique to bring to it, an experience in community building, in listening to people, in bringing people together to solve problems. I also want to bring my creativity to the table. I'm excited at this prospect. I would point out that my opponent made a promise on his webpage when he first started running. He stated, "I want to get in and get out. Hopefully there will be no need for another election for Portage County Executive." I find that very limiting. I think that this is an office that the people of the Portage County have created because they want that countywide voice. And I want to be the person who carries out that voice. I will hold listening sessions in every county supervisor district around this county if I'm elected. And I want to hear from you, the people of Portage County, and I want to bring your solutions to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pavelski.
The Declaration of Independence states that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. In order for me to be governed by you, I need your consent on April 5th. But I not only, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I don't need just your consent on April 5th. I need your consent on every single day of the 4 years that I would be in office. I need to listen to you, and I intend to work to get that consent by serving you and the citizens and families of Portage County, by serving the county board and its committees through servant leadership of the 14 departments that I, as county executive, oversee. I need to serve those by giving you the services that you need and deserve. My whole life I've been solving problems. I enjoy solving problems. And if politics gets in the way of solving problems, I'm going to get rid of politics. It costs you money, it costs me money, it causes division between us as a community. We need to put integrity in government. Thank you so much, League of Women Voters, for hosting this program. Thank you, people, for coming and being part of community government.
Great.
May God bless America.
Thank you both. Thank you to the candidates for the time and energy they have invested in running for the office of Portage County Executive and for participating in this forum. So feel free afterwards, if you wish, to visit with constituents. I'm sure others will have questions for you after the forum. On the April 5th ballot, Portage County voters will also be voting for several other offices, including Court of Appeals Judge District 4, Portage County Circuit Court Judge Branch 2, Portage County Circuit Court Judge Branch 3, Portage County District Supervisors, Stevens Point Alderpersons, and Stevens Point Area Public School District School Board members. Also on the ballot is the Portage County Healthcare Center referendum. The League of Women Voters of Wisconsin has a candidate guide for the Portage County judges elections, which may be found at vote411.org. myvote.wi.gov also provides information about the April 5th elections and the voting process. The League also has worked with local media to publish responses to League questions by County Board Supervisor candidates and Stevens Point Alderperson candidates. Some candidate responses have been published in both online and print versions. Others will be published in the next week. League contact information, including our website, email, and mailing address, is available at the League table. So this concludes the forum for the Portage County Executive. Thank you, candidates and audience, for your participation and attention. We also wish to thank Seth Hendricks, who taped and will replay the forums on the Stevens Point City website, stevenspoint.com/YouTube. These broadcasts are an appreciated service to the Portage County area residents. Thank you to the League members and student senators who volunteered in various roles this evening to make the forum possible. We couldn't do it without all of you. Thank you to the staff at Ben Franklin Junior High School for their assistance and for the use of this auditorium. The League believes that when you vote, you are participating in one of the most basic and important responsibilities you have as a citizen. When you vote, you are empowering your political voice. Please remember to vote on April 5th. Your vote does count. And now let us show our appreciation to the candidates and have a good evening.